Warning, this video and all other videos on this channel are for entertainment purposes only. The content of this video and all other videos on this channel are the opinions of the creator only and do not constitute legal, trading, investment, or financial advice of any kind. Investing carries a high level of risk and the majority of retail clients lose money. Do not invest any capital unless you understand the risks and you are prepared to lose it all.
Do you like the BBC? Do you like BBC?
Okay, yeah, we're not going to.
Oh, I can't interview you.
Obviously, I work for the BBC. So
But do you like BBC?
I know. I see what you're doing. I'm not going to respond to that. Okay.
Alright, hello and welcome to Camel Finance. I'm your boy Camel and I hope you are entertained. I know I certainly am. So the market is currently giving us a masterclass in why we have to have a system. Right? Why we have to stick to said system and why we can't just go jumping in front of trains. We are now on a perfect day 60 for the cycle low. Okay, so all we need is a little bit of a turn, a little bit of a bounce. We also notice, wait, let me turn this off log so my lines make sense. We also notice have got a very nice fake breakdown here. Okay, I love to see that, ready hopefully to V out of here. That's what I'm thinking. Sentiment has turned very, very, very bearish. Although we're still yet to see the purple flash that I am hoping for in the FOMO Finder chart. I think we're going to get it though. I do think we're going to get it. Regardless of whether we do or not, okay? At the moment, the facts are the facts and the data is the data. We are experiencing a cycle low right in the expected window. That's fact number one. Fact number two, 74% of Bitcoin losses came from holders that bought in the last month. So really what's happening here is newcomers, retail, bought the top and now they're paying the price. Okay, now what's happening is they're getting slammed into a weekly cycle low and we can see that here because again, this Bitcoin is less than 5 weeks old and it is all in a loss at the moment. That's who's suffering. The people that show up and buy the absolute all-time high. Fact number three, for every buyer there's a seller and for every seller there's a buyer. Whilst retail are selling their Bitcoin, whilst the people that bought at 100 odd plus K are now selling at sub 80, okay, there has to be someone to buy those Bitcoin. Otherwise, the price would continue to fall until liquidity and buyers stepped in. Price would continue to fall until we got to a price that motivates buyers to say, I have to buy some here that is ridiculously cheap. And at the moment, that just so happens to be around this 80K level. And again, as I was saying, fact number three, whales are still buying at unprecedented levels. So it is retail selling and it is whales and big boys buying the coins from retail right into a cycle low. It's almost as if the smart money knows something that the newcomers don't, isn't it? It's almost as if that's the case. Now, people that have been following me for a while know I'm a big fan of the gold to Bitcoin pairing. This is gold divided by Bitcoin. Normally I show the inverse of this, Bitcoin priced in gold, but take a look at what is going on here, okay? Now, as Jordan points out, if this thing breaks out, Peter Schiff is going to be insufferable, okay? But is that really likely? Is that the path of least resistance? I'm not convinced it is. It looks a lot to me, perhaps, like what we're seeing here is rejection at resistance, and right into a weekly cycle low, rejection at resistance once more. So of course, there's an obvious invalidation here. Breakout, retest, resumption off of here, and boom. Okay, Camel is wrong, gold's going to start to outperform Bitcoin, okay, but that's why we have exposure to gold too on this channel. But on a balance of probabilities, is it likely that we are going to break out here given where we are in the weekly cycle for Bitcoin? I don't think so personally. I think we are much more likely to get a rejection here and move to the downside, which is quite a nice and interesting way of looking at the current Bitcoin price action. I would suspect this has very few eyes on it, but if you ask me, okay, no reason to get too concerned until this thing starts to break out. Next up, I've got a video here from Kemo, and I'm sure Kemo won't mind. I'm just going to steal his work. I wanted to point out a few things that were in this video from Kemo. Number one, the first thing he pointed out was this wick right here, okay, let's zoom in on this with a magnifying glass, is kind of similar to what we've got at the moment. It's just at the moment we haven't had a wick show up. But it is entirely possible going into the weekend we can get a nice swing on the weekly close here. And if this can end up wicking back up and looking very similar to, where is it? I can't find it, here, okay? Then it sets us up next week for a ginormous weekly upside candle, a big weekly upside swing, and notice the pattern here, okay? Swing low, swing, and then boom, big green candle. That's what we're looking for out of a weekly cycle low. So it will be really nice, first of all. It doesn't look like it's going to happen at the moment, but just imagine we get to the end of the week and this has a nice long wick, a nice long tail. We're somewhere back up here. Okay, that would set us up to really, really, really upset the bears, wouldn't it? All the people that are panic sold, all the people that are convinced the top's in, all the people that are in my comment section all of a sudden saying, oh, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. Okay, all of those people having just sold down here, actually, let's back it up one step. All of those people that bought here in the last month are now selling here and now saying, ha, I told you so somehow. And then what we're going to do, probably wick back up and weekly swing and blast off. Okay, so I think it's a little bit premature to be saying I told you so or getting too bearish yet. I'm sure a turn is coming any moment now. And again, the market once more is giving us a masterclass in why it's important to wait for a swing, wait for confirmation of a low, rather than just go stabbing in the dark or jumping in front of any trains, as I often say. The next thing I wanted to steal from Kemo is he showed price tends to, in a weekly cycle, put in that double. It then puts in a 50% fib retracement to the ultimate low, the weekly cycle low. Before then, out of that weekly cycle low, it doubles once more. And as we click through this, he showed this multiple times. We go weekly cycle low, double, 50% fib retracement, 50% fib retracement into the weekly cycle low. Then, of course, we double again. And where are we today? We just so happen to have come all the way down to 79.5, which also just so happens to be that 50% retracement level. So if we're going to stop here, this seems like the perfect place to stop. I have to hold my hands up and be honest here. I really didn't think we would come quite this low down. I really did think we would end up stopping closer to 20% than 30%. But I do know that, as Kemo shows here, this is the 50% retracement, which is where every other weekly cycle low stopped. Number two, we know we're right in that timing window for a perfect weekly cycle low. And number three, gaps are not something I tend to look at very often. I don't really care for gaps personally, but we also have now filled that CME gap. So if I pull up this CME chart, okay, you can see right here, we've got a gap in the futures, which currently has now almost roughly been filled, okay? We need to go down to about 77,880 to truly fill this gap. It's probably going to do it. Maybe we've got to go down slightly more, but the CME gap, for all intents and purposes, has now been filled. Now, the reason I say I don't really care about these is because there's a huge misnomer with these gaps. What you'll hear a lot of new investors and rookies parrot is all gaps fill. And it's total nonsense, okay? A quick, simple Google search will tell you that that's not even remotely true. Now, for Bitcoin, many of the CME gaps do fill, but there are multiple open gaps. There's one all the way down at 3K, and I think there's one maybe at like 10 or 14K, somewhere in that neighborhood. But there's at least 2 or 3 open gaps on this chart that are probably never ever going to get filled. So right off the gate, saying all gaps fill is clearly wrong, okay? In Bitcoin's case, most of them fill most of the time, yes. But in other markets, you're looking at about 50 to 60% depending on the asset class. So this idea that all gaps fill or gaps have to fill, that's another thing you hear people say a lot. There's a gap somewhere, therefore it has to fill. Anyone that says that is really lazy in their approach to markets and thinking, okay? Because all you got to do is Google it and you'll find loads and loads of studies, case studies. The other way you could do it is to do your own research, okay? Pull up like an S&P chart or something and scroll back. There are loads and loads and loads of gaps that have never, ever, ever been filled, okay? So anyway, I'm not trying to turn this into a rant, but objectively speaking, again, we can add this to the list of things that say if we're going to stop here for Bitcoin, now seems like a pretty nice place to do it, okay? We have more or less filled that CME gap. We've got that 50% retracement. We're on perfect day 60 as of today. Is also the weekly cycle low. We've also got the FOMO finder slipping into panic briefly yesterday. And again, as I said earlier, we know we've got retail panic selling their coins to whales, okay? Love to see it. Absolutely love to see it. The only thing that's really a little bit missing here for me personally, there's no Coinbase monthly volume spike, which normally you would see. But we haven't got that at the moment. I don't think it matters too much, but it is something I was hunting for yesterday and didn't see. But it does seem to me like, roughly speaking, okay, we've got to be close. I think we've got to be close to a turn. But I do, largely speaking, expect people to continue to get more and more bearish and more sure of themselves first. We want to see people really, really puking their stacks before then we can actually find the bottom. But, you know, we've been setting this up all this time. What's an extra day or two, right? We still haven't found a swing. We still haven't found a reversal. I think we're going to get it. We just need to stay calm. Some of these crypto-related equities are down to levels that are free, essentially. So I can't wait to load up on those probably early next week, I would think. And the last couple of things I wanted to do today was just keep it simple. I was noticing in the stock market, we've had these 3 angles, and every weekend at the weekend's deep dive, I've been coming back to this chart right here. And you can see my squiggle right here. You know, I keep saying the same thing every weekend. I say all of this in here, bouncing between the second and third angle, is no man's land. But the thing we have to watch for is seeing a breakdown here. Because if we get the third angle and then the second angle violation, I have to start calling tops once it's confirmed with a failed daily cycle. But I also said that it's entirely possible we don't get this scenario, you know, and we bounce from here and Camel sets a new third and final blow off top angle and happy days, long and strong. That's kind of my bias since Bitcoin is heading into a weekly cycle low and I think Bitcoin's got some upside. It seems kind of weird to me that the stock market would break down like this with Bitcoin doing a double, but they can diverge for a little while in time. The whole thing could be over in just a number of weeks. We don't know, but we do know the cycle low is due soon. And we do therefore know that we are going to form a swing into that cycle low timing window for the stock market. And then we're going to get some level of counter trend bounce. And I put here, hope so it's over. Okay, and the reason for that is pretty simple. if we bounce out of this cycle low and continue to rip, then happy days, long and strong. We move this third angle from here over here, as I said, and we do the whole thing all over again. We say long until the thing breaks down, just like we did in the prior 2 or 3 times. But if this daily cycle low yields a counter trend bounce that then rolls over and breaks down to the second angle and fails the cycle, then that's it. That's my top signal. I've used this topping signal loads and loads and loads of times before. It's never let me down, and therefore I can't possibly stay long. I have to dump everything if this setup occurs. So it's pretty crazy. I really, really hope that's not in play, and I really, really hope that we can get a cycle low and resume to the upside, whilst Bitcoin finds its cycle low and resumes to the upside, whilst gold does the same thing, all roughly speaking around the same time. But you know, if you've been following along the weekend's deep dive, we've been talking about bouncing around in here and watching for a breakdown. And so this weekend's deep dive is going to be pretty interesting because we're really, really getting close to the wire now. All we need to see is a failed daily cycle to confirm that this really is a trend change, and that's it. Because we can have a temporary breakdown of the second angle into a cycle low and then reverse. That's normal, that's to be expected, as we've been talking about this week over and over again. Into cycle lows, we do get fake breakdown signals and bear traps. But again, we got to be kind of careful here, because if it confirms by failing the cycle, then that is a true trend change. And that is me calling that the top. And then the irony of all of this would be that my early December type top call would have actually been correct. Whilst we make a slightly higher high here, it was only just distribution in this scenario, and the whole thing would have been correct. So it's kind of crazy, but this is how sneaky tops are to deal with. Tops are very, very difficult to deal with. I'm not really confident in calling a top here. I need to see, like I said, that failed cycle to call it. And I'm still very optimistic that we can get another push. But again, you know, this is one of those times where we have to start saying to ourselves, okay, the risk is higher here than it has been in a very, very, very long time. Under the hood, however, there is some hope, because the AAII% bears has spiked to a level which is the 7th highest spike of all time. And note that prior spikes, okay, up into this above 60 level, denoted major bottoms for the stock market. Same here, almost made it here, coinciding with this. And again, here looking like a major bottom. So has the sentiment been totally destroyed? Seems like it. Seems like 60% of all market participants are bearish at this moment in time. And again, coupled with everything else I've shown you today, retail puke into whales, daily cycle low in focus, a gold Bitcoin pair in rejection setting up, Kemo's magical 50% fib retracements after each double from the weekly cycle low. Hopefully, just hopefully, we can say, okay, no need to be alarmed, scratch this one off, and let's get ready to rumble into the middle of the year as this bearish sentiment thing resets. So that's pretty much all I've got to say today, to be completely honest. Nothing has really changed, as I'm sure you can appreciate. Getting dangerously close to that daily cycle low, and then it will be time to set the level for the failed cycle, and again, use that as our bullish and bearish invalidation spots. Gold is playing ball, continues to play ball. Okay, pullback, daily cycle low. We're covered via silver, miners, and longer term positions in the member section there, so happy days. As a little tease, the Camel indicator, okay, has indeed confirmed the daily cycle low, so happy days. That thing will continue to push, and we'll leave it at that. Again, early in the weekly cycles, it tells us we've probably got some more upside here. Okay, it'd be interesting to see how this plays. And Bitcoin, we've done to death, right? Just looking for a swing and a reversal. We've had a masterclass this week on why we don't jump in front of any chains and just pull the trigger blindly, why we don't go stabbing in the dark. And just remember, if you are bearish here, if you're in people's comments like, you're wrong, 70k in X, 50k in X, that was the top. Just remember, you're bearish into a weekly cycle, which is malpractice, okay? You have to at least wait for a confirmed cycle, wait for a counter trend bounce, and then see the thing roll over and die. Then you can start calling tops. Otherwise, you're premature, and you're probably used to hearing that from your wife. So, I'm your boy Camel. I hope you have a fantastic weekend. I hope you come back tomorrow for the weekend's deep dive. If you're a level 3 member, look out for some updates as and when I've got something to say. And other than that, have a fantastic weekend. I'm your boy Camel. Until next time, cheers. Bye.
Camel Finance, he's the man to see. Rocking the markets with his contrarian spree. Trades like a pro, no fear, no shame. Sticking to his guns in his money game. He's a badass, oh yes indeed. Camel Finance got the markets key, taking us normies on a